Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to talk about string of buttons. In this video, I will discuss the basic guide of taking care of this plant. So if you want to know more, kindly watch this video until the end. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for you to be able to be updated on our next video. And also, if you like this, kindly share this with your friends. So what are you waiting for? Come on, follow me and be with me until the end of this video.
Crassula Perforata, or string of buttons, care and propagation. Native to South Africa, Crassula Perforata, or string of buttons or necklace pine, are very attractive succulent that sprawl and attack on top of each other as they grow. They have small, tight leaves that appear to spiral around their stem. Crassula Perforata, or string of buttons, can be grown both indoor and outdoors. Whether indoors or outdoors, providing the right potting mix, along with a proper lighting, will give them the best chance at survival. For lighting requirements, if kept indoor, provide as much light as possible. Typically speaking, they need approximately 4 to 6 hours of light per day to thrive. If your area does not receive adequate light indoor, or if you have poor lighting, you may notice that the plant stretching out or elongating. This process is called etiolation, where the plant does not receive adequate light for prolonged periods of time and begins to stretch out, literally seeking out more light. This process tends to produce weak stem and poor growth. When you start noticing your plant doing this, move it in a brighter location. For poor lighting condition, or for the areas that do not receive adequate sunlight indoors, no matter where you place your plant, consider using a grow light. Grow lights are a good investment to have, especially if you have a long dark winters. The rosy pink colors on the edge of the leaves of the plant intensify the more sun exposure it receives. To bring out the intensity of colors on your plant, increase the amount of sun it receives. So Crassula Perforata can tolerate mild frost and freezing temperature as long as they are not for long periods of time. If you have extreme winter condition in your area, the best way to grow these plants are in containers. That's why you can bring them indoors during winter or when there is forecast of frost or snow. In case you can't bring them in, there are ways to protect the plant from frost-freezing temperatures outdoor. For soil requirements, Crassula Perforata needs a well-draining soil mix. The right type of soil goes hand in hand with proper watering. I found when using a simple, tried and tested concoction that was work well for my plants. I like to use cactus potting mix combined with some perlite for good drainage. I do not use exact measurement, but eyeball it. It was 2:1 solution of cactus mix and perlite. Others recommend using a sandy soil, but I'm not using this way. This can be achieved by mixing cactus mix or potting soil with coarse sand. I get most of my material from a local hardware store, where you also could purchase them online. For water requirements, watering largely depends on the climate you live in. Although these plants are highly adapted to dry weather conditions, they do not much better when given sufficient amount of water. There really isn't a set of schedule or formula or when to water the plants. In summer months, I water my Crassula Perforata often as every 7 to 10 days, sometimes more during heat wave. I cut back on watering to about 10 to 14 days when the weather cools down. During the winter season, I mostly rely on rainwater and holds back on watering altogether because this is when we get lot of rain in my area. But if we don't get any rain at all during the winter, then I water at least once a month for every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how dry the soil gets. For these people in humid location, you won't need to water as much. And if you keep your plants indoors, you may not have to water as much, especially if they are not receiving lots of light. Too much water and not enough light is a recipe for the disaster of plants. One good way to tell whether it's time to water is to check the moisture of the soil. The top inch of the soil needs to feel dry before you can water again. If you are unsure how much and how often to water in the beginning, it's always better to underwater and increase watering as needed. Pay attention on how your plant looks and you can adjust watering accordingly. For propagating Crassula Perforata, the easiest and quickest way to propagate these plants is although stem cuttings. They can be propagated from leaves, but I never been successful yet with this method, so I discourage using leaves propagation. I have a much higher success rate with stem cutting, so I always opt this method. So for propagating from stem cuttings, obtain a stem cuttings and let it dry for a day or so. Since the stems are thin, they should take that long to dry. It's also a good idea to obtain cutting from healthy looking plants and not the dehydrated ones or stressed. You may dip the end in a rotting hormone. I usually skip sometimes this step, but some people also prefer using rotting hormones to speed up the process. Once the cut has healed and dried, stick the cutting in a well-draining potting mix. Keep away from direct sunlight. Water the soil every few days or when it feels dry. After a week or two or so, you will notice a new roots growing. After about 4 to 6 weeks, the cutting should be fully rooted, and you will soon notice a new growth developing from the top of the sides of the stem. Once fully rooted, cut back the misting and switch to regular watering about once a week or less. Increase the amount of sunlight as the plant matures. For common problem and growing of Crassula Perforata, there is brown leaves. The most common cause of brown leaves for Crassula Perforata is sunburn. Although this plant can take full sun, any extreme weather condition or extreme changes in weather such as heat wave can cause sunburn or sun damage. This does not really internally hurt the plants as long as the problem is temporary. Prolonged sunburn under extreme heat can fry the plant to death, which has happened to me sometimes. Unfortunately, if you notice the plant constantly getting sunburned, move the plant to a shadier location or provide a shade under taller plants, furniture, or sunshades. If moving the plant to a sunnier spot, it is a good idea to do so slowly so you don't shock the plant and give it time to acclimate to the more intense heat. Next is shriveled leaves. The most common reason for shriveled leaves of Crassula Perforata is underwatering. The leaves feel flat and deflated. When this happens, it is a sign the plant is running low of water storage and it's time to water. Just give the plant a good drink of water and it should perk up immediately, usually within a day or so. Other Crassula Perforata problem is mushy brown leaves. This most common reason for mushy brown leaves on Crassula Perforata is overwatering. The plant will look unwell and the leaves will get soft and mushy and appear translucent. These are telltale signs that you are overwatering your plant. Cut back on watering and allow the plant to dry out and recover from too much water. Do not water until the plant has had a chance to dry out completely. If the soil is not drying out fast enough, consider switching to a fast-drying one. Root rot can develop when left in wet soil. Once you notice rot, you can still save the plants by cutting off the dead part of the plant. Save anything that looks green and viable to propagate and repot. So how to get Crassula Perforata to bloom? Crassula Perforata produce cluster of white and yellow flowers. It is always a treat for me whenever one of my succulent plant blooms. Keep in mind that not all plants are ready to flower and some may not bloom at all. Plant maturity. Make sure that the plant is mature enough. When a plant blooms, it means it is ready to reproduce. If the plant is too young, it is simply not ready to reproduce and therefore will not bloom. Give the plant some time. Usually, if the plant is over 3 years old and beyond, it is mature enough to bloom. Feed and fertilize. While fertilizing it is not necessarily, giving your plants the nutrients they need will help ensure proper growth and encourage bloom. It takes a lot of energy for plants to produce flowers, and feeding them extra nutrients will help supplement their needs during flowering season. The most common recommendation is to fertilize during active growing seasons or during spring and summer months. Fertilizers are better applied at a quarter or half strength about every 2 weeks. Refrain from fertilizing towards the end of fall season and during winter months. A balanced blend of fertilizer diluted to a half strength is suitable and commonly used. Fertilizer blends specially formulated for cacti and succulent are also suitable.